Okay, so we're going to do corn chowder. And to me, corn chowder is about thyme, corn that can be frozen, potatoes. You could turn this into a vegetable chowder really easily, adding cauliflower, carrots, different vegetables, and that would work just fine too. In the recipe, I said a pound of everything, but what I really mean is about 4 cups of everything. So actually, let me go get, here we go. We'll measure this out a little bit and we can cut up. I want the potatoes on the bottom, so actually we'll cut up the potatoes first. And I just have these little red guys, and what I'm going to do is just cut them in quarters. If you want yours smaller, that's fine. What we're going to do is either puree or kind of blend together or smash with the back of your spoon. Actually, I'll let some be smaller because I want some to melt in and kind of create that creaminess. So I've washed these already. I love getting these little potatoes. I get them a lot of times at Costco. They're great for soups because they just are less maintenance. You do have to use them a little faster. But I'm also finding still, and by still I mean it's been all year, that some of the other potatoes have just been going bad ridiculously fast, like in less than a week. I don't know if some of it could be our hotter temperatures this year, but it wasn't like it was going bad from sprouting. They were just rotting. So I don't know if there was a particularly wet growing season somewhere or storage season. So I've been using these more, and I've also been using yellow fin potatoes, like those yellow fist-sized potatoes a lot. Here, we'll bring you in just a little bit. There we go. So I'm just going for about 4 cups. And again, with some of these bigger potatoes, these are smaller slices. I'm encouraging them to melt away into my soup. You could use fresh corn for this and cut it off the cob. And then if you do that, you could even put the corn cobs in the slow cooker to get that extra corny flavor in there that's delicious. I just don't have any. So if you're wondering, well, if that's so great, Kathy, why aren't you doing it? That's why. And see, this is pretty close to 4 cups. I just wanted to give you a more obtainable measure than a pound. And I can save these, or I could honestly, if there's room, I may put them in. And this is my little 360. I believe this is the 4-quart. Okay, I'm going to take some frozen corn. I'm going to measure 4 cups of it. Sweet corn. Yeah. And see, look, it's all but this. So guess what's going in here? All of it. I'm not saving 2 teaspoons of corn. Put that over here. Let me get something where I can scrape this out. It's very quick to put together, and that's one of the reasons I like this. Also, it's really brightening on like a dreary day to have all these like beautiful kind of summer colors. Got some bouillon cubes to throw in there of various sizes. So we're going to put in some garlic and some herbs, but first, though these are smashed, these are just Trader Joe's frozen tricolor peppers. And what happens when things get like this is you can literally just bang them on here and it loosens things up. And we don't care how, I just want to get about a bell pepper's worth. And the reason I like to use this in particular is that it's going to add even more pretty color, just some bursts of color. So this one's, we'll see if it cuts through well. I'm going to hold it. If you're not comfortable cutting this, or you don't feel like it's solid, like see that one's a little not solid, just wait till they thaw out a little bit. But sometimes I feel like they cut pretty easy frozen, and our freezer downstairs freezes pretty cold. But these add just a little bit of flavor, but I think they add a lot of festiveness. So we talked a little bit about how you could make this into a vegetable chowder. You could also kind of make this into kind of a Mexi corn chowder and add in a can of black beans. You could leave the potatoes or not. You could put a can of green chilies in here, or just a few teaspoons of green chilies. And so I'm kind of mincing them, so we'll have some little bits of color throughout. And if you don't have green peppers or you hate them, you don't have to do this. Just leave them out. Okay. So we've got our potatoes, our corn, our bouillon. Now we're getting our let's make this winter happy colors. With the winters being warmer, I'm not having that much seasonal affective disorder these days. I'm going to put in just a little over 4 cups of water, mostly because this slow cooker can cook a little bit hotter. But see, look how pretty. And it was really very low effort. I'm going to add in some fresh thyme, because I have it. If you don't have fresh thyme, use about a teaspoon or so of dried thyme, and then it says 4 garlic cloves minced, so I'm going to put in about 2 teaspoons, actually a teaspoon and a half of granulated garlic. Mix that around a little bit. We'll pull these stems out and the leaves will just kind of fall in. We'll probably add a little bit more dried thyme. This one is the one that's expensive. It's just this base. It's a lot like the West Bend, but it does have different temperatures. I'm going to plug it in now, because if I plugged it in before, there's no off. There's no off, and that's not good. So I'm just going to kind of turn it up to 2 if I wanted to cook all night, or up to 3 or 3 to 4 if I want to eat this soon. So I kind of have this in between 3 and 4. We'll sit this around, and the reason I'm putting both of these on higher temperatures is I want to eat them for dinner, and it's 11:30 my time. So if I had been super smart and did it in the morning, I could have cooked it for 8 hours on low. It just doesn't matter. There are very few things in slow cooking that matter what temperature you do. Like on high, you do need to bake on high. If you try to bake on low, it's not going to be pretty, trust me. The temperature is too low for anything to really be structurally sound. And then we've got tea towels so that this condensation doesn't just soak back in. But if we're looking soups, stews, things that we normally cook in slow cookers, that's the way it works. Okay, we'll be checking on it in a little bit later. Okay, so the day has passed. It really has. It's actually 4:30, and I think it was 11 when I put this on. We talked about it maybe being 4 hours. We're gonna look at the corn chowder, and I have some fresh basil that I'm gonna cut to put in. If you don't have fresh basil, we could have put in regular basil to begin with, or just added at the end, just the dried. It just seems like basil cooks away more than some other flavors, though with something like thyme, you still may have to put in some extra. So I've got a little bowl for once we get ready. And again, this is the 360 cookware. So it's like a pan that comes off of here. And it's been cooking pretty hot. So I told you this cooked kind of hotter. And so the coloring from the water comes from my bouillon cubes that have a lot of, carrot and stuff. See how this just kind of cooked off and now it's just a stem? We don't need that stem. And I think there will be at least one or two more, but most of the leaves just kind of come off and get into the stew. So that's just from the fresh thyme. We'll see if we see anything else. There's another stick. They will present themselves to you to get out. And here's the thing. If you just wanted it to be kind of like a soup, you could leave it like this. We're going to add in some non-dairy milk. We're also going to add in either like some yogurt or vegan sour cream or cashew cream. So we got the thyme out. Now I have my fan going so you can see all the things. So some of these potatoes, I'm just going to come over to the side and smush them. And that's going to help thicken up the soup a bit. You can do this as much or as little as you want. I like it to kind of thicken up without having to add too many other things to it. So to me, I'm going to probably smash 25% of the potatoes. You could also bring an immersion blender in here and get some of the corn too. And that would actually, if you put some oats in there, ooh, there's another thyme stem. But for right now, so again, you could do that. Maybe I should show you that. Let me grab my older immersion blender. I'm getting ready to upgrade, and there's going to be a video about that. Well, I don't know if it's upgrade as much as it is. The Mexi isn't being made anymore, and the small chopper is looking a little rough. So with the immersion blender, I'm just going to kind of go in. Oh, there we go. And you can do this for as much or as little as you want. So see how it already looks creamier? So if you really didn't want to add any yogurt or anything like that to it. And also we could just keep spinning that around if we wanted to puree it as much as possible. I'm going to put 1 cup of soy milk in here. This could be any unsweetened plain milk. And the recipe says 2, but I was thinking I might put some yogurt in there. So let's see what 1 looks like. And it's about how light and creamy you want it to be. That looks pretty good. And I don't know that I want it any thinner, so I'm just going to stop at that 1 cup of soy milk. So this is the Trader Joe's yogurt. So it does have coconut in it. The only one is Kite Hill Almond Unsweetened that doesn't have coconut. I was still mad about paying $7 to $10 for one thing, and this was half the price. It's a little less. I'm going to put in about a half a cup to a cup. You could also choose to just put this on per serving, and we can put in some more per serving. So I'm just going to kind of blend this in. If I need to get a whisk, I'll get a whisk. But this is going to give it that same creaminess that 1 cup, or lightness, that 1 cup of soy would, but it's going to be a little thicker. And like again, if you find some really big pieces of potato, you can squish some of them. And you can still see some, you don't see as much of the green peppers, but you see some of the red pepper flakes. Now the other thing we need to do is we need to taste this and see how we need to adjust it. And that's the most important thing when you're cooking in a slow cooker. Okay, so I'm just getting some of the broth. The creaminess is really good. I really like the yogurt in there, but it's not as herbaceous as I'd like it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and add half a teaspoon of thyme. I'm also going to go ahead and add like half a teaspoon of garlic powder. Now, I would not add fresh garlic at this point without cooking it longer, but you can get away with adding a little bit of this. We're going to put a little bit of onion powder in there too, just like a 1/4 teaspoon. And then we'll chop up and add the basil, because it definitely needs some basil. I'm going to kind of let this kind of get in here. I'm also going to turn this down to just stay warm. And while potatoes aren't the ultimate in freezing, they can be a little mealy. If you wanted to make this to freeze up for later, you could just make the corn part, leave out the potatoes. You could use turnips or cauliflower instead of the potatoes, or you could just do the corn part and add the potatoes when you serve it later. Or you can decide you don't care. That is sometimes what I do. It's like, this is good enough. So I'm just going to, I've got some herbs for garnishing a bowl. And then I have the basil to chiffonade a little bit. And I'll let you see. So this is some fresh basil. It's not all perfect, some of it, because some of it's a little dry. I'm okay with that. I got some prettier ones for garnishes and a couple more sprigs of thyme for garnish. So I'm just going to kind of gather everything up as much as I can and kind of roll it together. And then we're just going to slice it thinly. And we can decide if we want it to be unrolled as far as, and then sliced a little bit more if some of the leaves are so big. But see, it's really pretty for a topping like this. But let's go ahead and chop ours in. I said 2 tablespoons in the recipe, and this is probably closer to a 1/4 cup. It's probably 3 tablespoons, and I'm probably going to use it all. I could reserve some of it too to be garnish. Ooh. Let that get in there and get kind of infused a little bit. And I tend to like, whenever I add these last minute ingredients, like to have it simmer for about 5 to 10 minutes just to get it all nice and yummy. We also can add a little bit of nutritional yeast. So I'm probably not going to put any shredded cheese on here. So I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast. And that's going to make it taste cheesy without actually going and making my no oil cheese. And for me, I'm going to put probably about a half a teaspoon to 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. And you can add pepper if you want to as well. You can also add some liquid smoke or put like some tempeh bacon for crumbles, or mushroom bacon, carrot bacon that you make, something like that. Ooh, yeah. Also, the nutritional yeast kind of thickens it up a little bit more. Let you see again. You see how that looks a little bit thicker. And again, if we could have cut the potatoes at any size I wanted to have some chunks. You could have peeled them if you don't want to deal with any of the peels in there. It's really all up to you. I usually try to make the potatoes at whatever bite size I want. Actually, I'm just going to put the heat up for a minute just to let everything really meld in. And I am going to go ahead and taste it. It's exactly what it needed. Just a little more time. It's perfect. So let's go ahead and scoop out a bowl. And I can show you kind of how I decorate it. I mean, decorate is such a strong term. Got a little Halloween mug. Also, this is what I'm going to be freezing a lot of these in. These soups that I'm making. So they have these lids that you can either change the date that you put it in. You can also open that and microwave it if you're okay with microwaving plastic. But they fit on really nice and tight. These can go in the microwave, the dishwasher, and the freezer. And you can get ones that aren't Halloween if Halloween is not your thing. Okay, so you could do a little thing where we put some of this on. Here we could do 2 bowls. And if you do finishing salt, you could put a little finishing salt. Or, for instance, we could do some big cracked black pepper is one way we could do this. Let me grab another one of these. Actually, I think this will look better in this orange one. And Cheryl and I may go ahead, like, see, witch's brew. And then another way we could kind of garnish it out is we could take some small sprigs of thyme, and I could get just like, see if I can get some of these little bitty guys that are coming off of this growth. So we could put those kind of, oh, these are too little bitty. Okay, let me get less little bitty. There we go. And even though it's a little something, like, honestly, this potato's not great there, but there we go. And that's really nice. And then when I'm saying finishing salt, so like I have some of this smoked salt. It's big, and this only goes if you use salt, of course. If you don't, that's perfectly fine too. But if you don't want to put any salt in, having some of these finishing salts can look really cool. I'll go ahead and put a little bit over here too, so you can kind of see it over on this one, right? And then it gives like this burst of smoky saltiness, which is a lot like what bacon would do. And we could also then go ahead and add in like a nice sprig of basil. So that's the corn chowder. The only thing I would say is potatoes don't freeze well, but I would cut up the potatoes more if I thought I was going to freeze it. I think we're going to eat this before class ever starts, and I'll let you know, okay? But again, you could do this with turnips. You could do it with small pieces of cauliflower instead of potatoes, and that's going to freeze amazing. So let me know what you do, and let me know what ideas you have about this soup.